All right, let's look at the 5 reasons why Clemson will beat Notre Dame, why it will be different this time around. Again, this is not a prediction. It's simply the 5 reasons why Clemson will win if they do, in fact, win this game in a rematch with Notre Dame. So we start with number 5. We're going to count it down. Number 5, it's the defensive line for Clemson. It is the strength of this defense. It's a defensive line that's had some injury problems this year, but they're still really, really good. A little bit young, but they're really good. And what's going to be really big for them is the fact that they get Tyler Davis and Xavier Thomas back, 2 guys that did not play in the first matchup. And maybe they don't start in this game, but still it adds some depth. And it's going to be very important for Clemson to, first of all, slow down the run game, which is something they didn't do a great job of in the first game, and also get pressure on the quarterback without having to blitz all the time. Defensive line going to be a big key, and you're going up against a really good Notre Dame offensive line. I think it's maybe the strength of this Notre Dame offense. So this is going to be a big battle in the trenches and could really, really determine this game. But again, Clemson's defensive line, really, really strong. It is, like I said, probably the strength of this defense. You've got Miles Murphy, 8.5 tackles for loss this year, 3.5 sacks. Niles Pickney, he's had a sack this year, 3 tackles for loss. KJ Henry's been in the backfield. The freshman, Brian Brzee, he has had an impact. I mean, this is a very strong defensive line. Maybe not playing quite to the level that we expected, but the talent is still there, and they get some guys back. The depth is going to be there. It's going to be a big key, and if they can slow down the run game, get to Ian Book without bringing a lot of blitzes, I think that will be really, really big in this game and could ultimately be a big factor in determining whether or not Clemson is able to win this time around. Let's go to number 4 now. It is Brent Venables. I think he is the best defensive coordinator in college football, and I think he's for sure the best big game defensive coordinator. We have seen it over and over again. Clemson's defense plays really, really well in these big games, and I think he is a big reason why. I think they will do some things different. They're going to scheme up some things that maybe Notre Dame didn't see the first time around. They're going to get after Ian Book. I do expect them to bring a lot of pressure. Now, if they don't have to do that, if again we go back to the defensive line and they're getting into the backfield without bringing any pressure, that's going to be really big for Clemson. But I think he's going to have an excellent game plan in this game. And like I said, I just feel like he is the best big game defensive coordinator in all of college football. When you look at how this team has played in playoff games and national championships, they seem to always be prepared, always seem to confuse the other team. And I think they really bring it in this game. I expect him to be one of the big differences for Clemson, and I've got him at number 4. Let's go to number 3. It is James Skalski of Clemson at linebacker. He did not play against Notre Dame the first time. He will be playing this time. He didn't play a whole lot against Virginia Tech, but it was not an injury issue, just had some soreness. He should be good to go in this game. The bad news is they lost his running mate, the guy who actually, I guess, took his spot the first time around, and that's Jake Venables. He is out, broke his arm, so we will not see him. So a lot is going to ride on James Skalski in this game. He's the leader of the defense. He's not the most athletic linebacker in the country, but he is the leader of this defense. And I think not having him on the field had an impact in that first game. I think maybe there were some blown coverages, some missed assignments that maybe they don't happen if he is out there getting everything organized, because he is, again, the quarterback of the defense. You think about it, the first time they played, Clemson didn't have their quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and they didn't have the quarterback of the defense in James Skalski. Both guys will be back this time, and that could really make a difference. I think that's a big reason why Clemson is favored in this game. But his presence on that defensive side of the ball, his leadership is going to be huge for Clemson. And at the end of the day, he might be the difference in this one, the difference at least from that first matchup. So he is my number 3 reason. Let's go to number 2 now. That is Dabo Swinney. Dabo has had an excellent track record in big games. He has been almost perfect in big games. You look at his record in ACC Championship games, he's 6-1. The only loss was in his first full year at Clemson. So he's been here before. Notre Dame has never played an ACC Championship, obviously. Brian Kelly, or let's go to the postseason for Dabo. In the postseason, since 2012, he only has 3 postseason losses, and 2 of those were in the national championship. He's won 2 national championships. He's won playoff games. He's won big bowl games. He's got the experience, and he is always, it seems like they are always ready to go in these big games. Clemson plays their best in big games. When they lose, you go back since 2012, a lot of their losses came against teams that really weren't that great. It was upsets that used to always get Clemson, but in the big games they were always ready to go. Now, of course, they lost a couple of games in national championships, but when you play great teams, that's just going to happen. On the flip side, Brian Kelly, he's 5-4 in the postseason. He is 0-1 in the playoffs, 0-1 in the national championship. And really, you go back to this Clemson game this year, that was the biggest win for Brian Kelly in his career at Notre Dame, by far. That's really the only huge game he has won. So I think there is an advantage here for Dabo. He's got the experience. He's proven he can do it. And this is a huge game. I'm not saying that Brian Kelly won't have his team prepared and do everything he's supposed to do, but I just think there's an advantage there for Dabo. I think because of the fact that he's done it so many times, and this is such a big game. I think, again, the coaching advantage when you talk about Dabo, and again, going back to Venables, it goes to Clemson in this matchup in a monster game. That is a big reason why I think Clemson, again, is favored in this game, but it's not the number one reason. The number one reason for me is Trevor Lawrence, and I don't think there's going to be much debate on this. Now, look, the quarterback position was not what cost Clemson in the first game. DJ played really well in that game, but there were some throws he missed. When you look at the stats, he played phenomenal. I mean, he had 439 yards passing in this game. He made a few plays with his legs. I mean, the quarterback position, the passing game was not really an issue. He had no turnovers, no interceptions, but there were some key throws in this game. And if you go back and watch the film, there were some third downs that he missed that could have kept drives alive. There were some plays where he didn't hit a receiver in stride when it would have been a big game. I mean, his numbers were good, but these are things that Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to do. He's going to deliver on those third downs that maybe DJ couldn't. He's going to hit that receiver in stride, which is going to lead to a 40-yard gain instead of a 10-yard gain. Little things like that, and also just the leadership you get from Trevor Lawrence. Now that you've got your guy back, I think these Clemson players, this offense, they believe that they can win this game, that they will win this game, that they're supposed to win this game. And having him back, I think, is going to be really big, not just when you talk about the stats and the X's and O's, but also psychologically. I think it's really big for Clemson to have him back. And again, James Skalski on the defensive side of the ball, same thing there. And having these guys back, having their confidence back in a game where, they did a lot of things wrong against Notre Dame, had 3 turnovers, didn't keep some of those drives alive, couldn't run the ball at all. A lot of things went against them, and it still went to overtime. They still had a chance to win this game. So when you look at all of that, you really have to like Clemson's chances. But again, I said this on the Notre Dame side, it may really come down to these quarterbacks. If Ian Book can play with Trevor Lawrence, Notre Dame, I think, has a very good chance to win this game. But if Trevor Lawrence outplays him by a wide margin, I think Clemson should be able to take care of business, should get the win. And again, I think that when you look at that quarterback spot, that is always such a big, big deal in these big games. And the advantage right now, I think, has to go to Clemson. You look at Trevor Lawrence again and what he has done this year. He's once again playing just unbelievable football. 20 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. His completion percentage, the best of his career at 69%. He's playing maybe the best football of his career. His quarterback rating, the best it's ever been, 174. I mean, everything has been great about Trevor Lawrence this year. And if he can continue that and he can outplay Ian Book and keep those drives alive that maybe they couldn't in the first game, I think Clemson wins this one. But it's one that would really, to me, come down to that quarterback spot. Whichever quarterback has the better game, I think might wind up winning it.